This is a video showing you the process that I went through to create this image of Dancer Lily. In this image I have used mixed media. I start off by working out what colour palette I would like to use. So I've settled on fairly muted colours, probably more of a monochromatic colour palette. Here I am taking bits from magazines, whether they be black and white images or images that have interesting textures on them or patterns. These are not going to be that visible in my work. I like to use them as an underlayer so that I can then work on top of them and let some of the delicacy of the patterns and textures shine through once I've put a layer of paint over the top. I also like to put a scraping of gesso over the top of the collage. That allows the gesso to protect the paper underneath and makes it almost like a waterproof barrier, and it also gives a nice tooth for me to work upon so it's not too slippy and shiny. Sometimes magazines have a very shiny surface, and the gesso helps just to add a little bit of a tooth to the paper and allow me to build up some interesting textures using paint on top of those. When I'm sticking down my collage, I'm always bearing in mind where I want my main subject matter to be, so that I am concentrating on not perhaps overloading or overlayering the area where my main subject matter is going to be placed. In this case, it's Dancer Lily. This is black acrylic that I've used along with some gesso just to knock back parts of the collage and to allow me to build up layers now to create some interesting depth to the piece. I like to paint with a large brush because this allows me to be not too precious and also to make some nice fast sweeping marks that will contrast with some of the sharper edges of the collage that I've used. Sometimes I use paint to paint in the figure. In this case I'm using a Poca pen. The Poca pen is black and that shows up nicely on top of the dark background that I've got. I like to work from a photograph or from my iPad. I always have my image close by so I can look and draw and look and draw, and that way I get a much more accurate representation of what it is that I am drawing. I've also added some stenciling to this piece using spray paint. You can see this in gold here. Now just now the gold's too overpowering. In fact, a lot of the mark making is too overpowering. So what I'm going to go and do now is I'm going to go back and I'm going to try and knock back some of the detail that's coming out so that there are less busy parts and much more of a balance between areas of interest and quiet spaces. I always like to work large scale so that if I need to, I can crop down my image. In this case, I've got a frame here that I've just taken off the back and I'm using it almost like a little window to look through to see what suits this picture the best, what composition works. I like this rectangle that I've created on the piece and I want to make that a focal point in the image along with Dancer Lily. So by moving the frame I can work out what compositionally is going to work, what is going to create a balanced composition, what is going to look too busy, what is going to create areas of interest, what's going to work basically and what's not. Sometimes as well I've got my picture frame here in portrait mode, but I can also turn it on its side and have a look at it landscape ways. I really like the white section down the left hand side and I would like to keep that, as much of that in as possible. I think having the picture frame landscape ways, which is what I'm showing just now, it does work, but I'm missing that top part off of the rectangle that I like, which creates a little bit of focus. So I think I'm going to go back to the portrait. And here again, you can see just by moving it over to the right, it gives a whole new dimension to the picture. So I always recommend doing this before you settle on framing your piece to make sure that you've got the strongest composition possible. Overall, I was happy with this composition, but I felt like I needed a leading line going diagonally across the page from the right hand side down to the left hand corner underneath where the dancer's foot is. So I used a black pencil and gently placed a diagonal line across the floor. And here is the finished result. To see more of the artwork that I do, you can follow me on Black Paint Artist on Insta, you can follow me on YouTube, and you can follow me on TikTok.